Wait, is that all we get? Seriously, that's it? I mean, sure, Officer Talk, the Clockwork Lieutenants, the Taxman, the Needle-Nosed Dogs, the Pinheads, the Wax King, the Blind Knights, the Smothered Folk, the Paper Boys, the Mother Wen, and the Ladies in Hiding may sound like a lot, but that's only 11 enemies. And of those, Officer Talk, the Taxman, Mother Wen, and the Wax King are all singular characters. They're your bosses. You don't run into them that often. That leaves us with 7 generic enemies. 7. Can you imagine if other RPGs tried to come out with just 7 enemies? Can you imagine D&D with only 7 enemies?
I got a big broadsword made out of cardboard, and that stereo's a pumpin' Zeppelin. It's that time of the night, we turn on the black light, let the Dungeons and the Dragons begin, it's D&D!
But, I hear the voices in my head asking me, how does a game work with so few enemies? Well, the answer's quite simple, really. It just relies on the GM to actually do something! You know, make stuff up? I'm sure this idea is completely alien to those of you used to the big old bestiaries that let you just pick and choose, but here you're expected to make up your own nightmares. But in Don't Rest Your Head, it's incredibly easy, because all the GM ever has to worry about is pain. Oh dear God, the pain! Which only ever ranges from 1 to 12. Very simple system. 1 is something like, trying to climb a fence. 12 is something more like punching Cthulhu in the face. So, for example, say we have a veterinarian who's been working at a pound for a while now, and all they seem to really be doing is putting dogs down. Perfectly healthy dogs, just ones that nobody wants, and they have to kill them. Now, the character became a veterinarian in order to help animals, and here he is killing them. Being the kind and warm-hearted GM that I am, I immediately decide these dogs come back to haunt him. I toy with a few ideas, maybe ghosts, maybe the dogs seem perfectly natural, and eventually settle on their dead corpses getting up and following him around. Now, being the cruel person that I am, I don't have the dogs outwardly attack him, I just have them watching him. And I decide that if he does decide to attack them, there's enough of them that it's probably going to be around pain 6. If he doesn't, he's going to have to deal with them following him, and he's going to start with a pain challenge of maybe around 4 to deal with the psychological trauma instead of the physical. If he decides to attack them, I as the GM will be rolling 6 dice, and if he decides not to, I as the GM will be rolling 4. Now, if you were paying attention, you probably just realized that this is a dice pool system. Thankfully, it uses d6s, which are really easy to get a hold of. Unthankfully, you really do need to make sure you can distinguish between 4 distinct types. Now, what I do, since the game requires so many, is I got these nice big sets of Chessex dice in 4 colors. They're extremely useful and it makes the game go much, much quicker. You need so many different kinds of dice because while the GM only has to worry about pain, players have to worry about discipline, madness, and exhaustion, which really each need their own color or type of dice. This does mean you're going to be rolling an awful lot of different kinds of dice, but there is actually good reason for that, because while success or failure is just determined by how many successes each side gets, there's another mechanic at work. You see, low rolls are successes here. High rolls determine dominance, and any one of the 4 pools can dominate. If discipline dominates, good things happen for the protagonists. This is rare. If madness dominates, everything gets a bit weirder and further into the Mad City, and the protagonist also has to check off a response box and either react with fight or flight, extreme anger or extreme fear. If exhaustion dominates, the protagonist gets more tired, which makes them more powerful because their exhaustion is increased, but also makes it more likely that it's going to increase in the future, which will eventually cause them to collapse. And we all know what happens when you collapse. If pain dominates, it hurts. And the GM gets a coin of despair, which he can later use to make more bad stuff happen. Of course, when he spends it, it gives the players a coin of hope, which is one of the few times they get something that can really help them out and stave off their imminent collapse. Makes this game a lot different from other horror games. It's not that easy to die. It's not like Call of Cthulhu where there's special rules for when you get half your hit points taken away in one hit, and it's not like World of Darkness where combat's very much discouraged, if possible. What you get instead is this powerful death spiral that actually encourages a lot of action. It gives the game a more cinematic feel, because you see, you want players to keep rolling so that their exhaustion will stay very high, because they'll want more exhaustion because they'll be more powerful, but they don't want it to go too far. And you'll end up very often with players riding this very fine line between having just enough exhaustion to get by with what they're trying to do, and almost collapsing. And it makes it so you keep throwing more and more obstacles at them rather than giving them the time to breathe and think things through. And that, at the core of it, is what makes Don't Rest Your Head such a great game. It's not like other horror games. It's not this kind of somber, dark, slow horror where you have to think things through ahead of time. No. It's this fast-paced, breakneck horror game where you keep doing things and things keep getting weirder and weirder at such a hectic pace that you never have time to figure out just what the hell is going on. You just keep descending further and further into the madness, or getting more and more tired till eventually you can't do it anymore. And either you fall asleep or you snap so completely that you become a nightmare. It's not like Call of Cthulhu or World of Darkness where you have all these supplemental books that can give you great ideas to go through. It does, however, give you Don't Lose Your Mind. This is largely a player's supplement. It gives you a list of madness talents and different ways you can use them, suggestions of what nightmares you turn into, got one for each letter of the alphabet, and also various advice on alternate rules for making madness an even bigger part of the game and how best the players can utilize it. It's not necessary, and there's not much in here except for the alternate aid rules that you really can't just make up on your own, but it's worth a buy if you need some inspiration or just want to look at the really cool stuff. Probably the best one in here is T is for Teddy, where you have a teddy bear that's a voodoo doll for the world, so by destroying the bear, you can destroy the world. The game... excuse me. The game is produced by Evil Hat Productions. You can find out more on their website and purchase a copy. It's not very expensive, though the cost of dice might drive that up a bit. Or if you want some more interesting tidbits for the game, you can check out my blog, where in celebration of October I'll be placing nightmares, locations, various ideas for what you can do, and I'm going to start posting my long-running actual play from some of my players and me. Well, until next time, this has been Cognition Collider, and I think I can finally get some sleep. Oh, and for the sake of a disclaimer, I should point out it's not that likely to actually punch out Cthulhu in this game. I mean, that'd be like Wilbur Whateley showing up in Silent Hill. Can you imagine that?
This is a question, eh?